take your seats as we are starting in a couple minutes. Thank you.
everyone. It is lovely to see you all in this fantastic barn. Can we give the Hunter family an enormous round of applause, please, for hosting us today? Brilliant. It is a real pleasure to see so many of you here today, but also it shows how serious the situation facing British farming and food production is today. Now, at Conservative Party conference, I called for a food and farming emergency summit to bring farmers, fishermen, food producers and food manufacturers together to come up with the urgent measures you need to keep going for the next 12 months. So today is about urgent measures, not long-term strategic thinking, which I promise you we are doing. But the reason I feel this urgency very powerfully is because I see what is happening to our farming, our food production, and our food manufacturing industries. I see that food prices are rising in the supermarkets, and that affects us all, whether we live in the beautiful countryside here in Buckinghamshire or whether we live in a city centre, because guess what? We all eat food. We need our food, and we need our food to be nutritious, grown to the highest standards, and of a quality and a certainty of security that we all expect. And so food prices rising, with record farm closures, as has happened in the last 12 months, and we have only to look at the back pages of Farmers Weekly and Farmers Guardian to see for ourselves that even more are on there, are up for sale as well. With record farm closures, with 2 pubs or restaurants closing every day, and the difficulties that farmers, fishermen, and food producers are feeling at the moment with the enormous taxation burdens that they face, from national insurance through to packaging taxes and so on. All of these are having an impact on your ability to keep your heads above water and survive, let alone thrive. And then we know, because of the dreaded family farm tax, that business investment and business confidence has taken a hell of a kicking. And the human costs of that terrible tax are being felt already, before the tax has already come in place. Now, I've asked questions in Parliament about this, but I know that each and every one of you will have people you know, possibly even care for very deeply, who have had some very, very difficult conversations across the kitchen table about what the family farm and family business tax means for their farms and businesses. I cannot believe that a minister or a secretary of state or a chancellor is prepared to impose a tax that has such a terrible, terrible human cost. And these costs were brought forward to me last week. I spoke to the agricultural chaplain for Suffolk the night before DEFRA orals. I only get 2 questions every 6 weeks in Parliament, and so I like to use them to their maximum effect. And I spoke to the agricultural chaplain, and he told me of the stories he is having to deal with and that we know are happening across the country. The father with small children who has taken his own life because of fears for the tax. The 92-year-old grandmother who has told her family, very calmly, that she will not be with us in April because of the tax. The teenage boy who walked in to discover his father's body because of the tax. These are very, very difficult stories to hear, but they are stories that are happening and are real, and this is why we are in an emergency. And so today, we have called you all together to talk about what we would like to do to try to help you over the next 12 months. As I say, there is a lot more thinking about the longer term. Please, please, that is still going on. But today is about giving us some practical measures that you tell us you need to survive the next 12 months, and then I'm going to do something different. I'm going to put party politics to one side, and I'm going to give these solutions to the Secretary of State and the government. I'm going to say, please, please, will you implement these measures in order to save British farming? And I very much hope that when she hears from you and the evidence you present, that she understands and that she implements these. I will work with anyone to protect you and your industries, because it is so very important to our future as a country. So thank you very, very much indeed for coming here today. Thank you, as I say, to the Hunters for hosting us so beautifully. But thank you, I hope, for the ideas you will be giving us, which I will then give in good faith to the government by the end of this week, ahead of the budget, in the hope that we see some movement and we see them working with us to get these measures into place. And as part of that, I'm really honoured, and I hope it shows to you our commitment as a party to farming and food production and our rural communities. I'm really, really honoured to be able to introduce to you today Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the Conservative Party, the leader of His Majesty's official opposition, who wants to talk to you about her vision for farming and for food production in the coming months and years. Thank you, Kemi.
Thank you, Vicki. Thank you, everyone. What a fantastic turnout. I'm so pleased to see you all here. I know how busy you are, and you've given up your Monday morning to hear me speak. I want you to know how grateful I am for that. And why are we here? It's because there is a budget next week. Next week, we will see whether Rachel Reeves has the courage to undo the mess that she made last year. She was warned that putting up that tax on family businesses and family farms would be a terrible mistake. And as you heard from Vicki, it is creating a lot of havoc and misery in the lives of our farming community. One of the reasons why I have fought this campaign along with my team relentlessly is to make sure that people don't forget about this issue. This is why this is not a farming summit. It is an emergency farming summit, because it's absolutely critical that people have farmers in their minds for next week when the budget happens. We had a lot of protests over the years. The tractors were coming in from all around the country, blocking Whitehall. But I can see that people are forgetting, because life is getting worse for so many others. There's so many problems. They must not forget. Farming is a way of life in our country. We have to preserve it. I have a rural constituency, just like Vicki does, and I speak to my farmers every week. I know what they are going through. And what I realize is that a lot of people out there, even in and around rural communities, either don't understand or don't care. But I also know that the government doesn't understand and doesn't care. We understand and we care. My grandfather had a farm. When I was a little child, he had a fruit farm. When I was a child, he used to bring fruit over. And one day the fruit stopped. And I asked him why. And he said it's because farming is just too difficult. So I knew from a young age, yes, it was a different continent, but farming all across the world is tough. I knew from a young age just how difficult farming is. And it is why country after country does so much to make sure that it looks after farmers. But over the last few years, it feels like people are forgetting why farmers are important, or they think that you're always going to be okay. In some cases, they actually think that you're all very wealthy. You have millions of pounds of land, and of course you can afford to pay more taxes. We understand, we care, and we have said that the first thing we do when we get back into government is scrap the family farms tax. But we all know that this is not the only problem that you are facing. And yes, Vicki and I could have a really fantastic time talking about all the terrible things we hate about Labour and how we're going to get them out. But at the end of the day, that's not what's going to solve your problem. We will do everything we can to educate them. Vicki has said she's going to take all of your suggestions, all of your solutions to the government. We're going to fight in the dispatch box. We have had petitions. Over 250,000 people have signed them. We have been with you throughout all those marches, but there is more that needs to be done. The first one is dealing with the red tape that you all have to struggle with. Farmers are drowning in bureaucracy. If it's not one thing, it is another. It's this quango, it's that quango, it's Natural England, it's the Environment Agency, sometimes it's highways, it's the compulsory purchase orders that they're taking the land off, it's the pylons that are crossing the farms. It's just never ending. We need to relieve the burdens on farmers. So the vision that we have and those of you who were at the roundtable heard me say it, is creating that long-term certainty, having a vision of a flourishing farming sector, one where people are proud to work in farming, where people want to join in it, not one where the next generation is giving up because it is too hard. So getting rid of that red tape is the first thing. The second thing that we know you're struggling with is energy costs. To be honest, everyone is. Energy in our country is too expensive. Our industrial energy prices are 4 times what people in the US pay, what farmers in the US pay. That is not fair. It is making it impossible to compete. Along with a lot of the red tape and the misguided regulation, you're having to deal with imports from people who don't have to comply with those regulations. It is not a level playing field. Leveling the playing field is important. So that's why it's not just the red tape that we're going to scrap. We're going to have cheaper energy. We have a cheap power plan that is fully costed, that makes sure that we get rid of a lot of the levies that have come from net zero that are not actually helping us deal with climate change, but are just making it more and more expensive. They are bankrupting our country, and we are deindustrializing. So that's the second thing that we're going to do to help you. The third thing we're going to do is get serious about tackling rural crime, and that starts with enforcement. I have been a member of parliament for 8 years, Vicki 10 years, and we know that we have been on this issue again and again and again. We've had more police officers in rural crime teams. It's still not enough. We have all these task forces, and when I speak to those officers, what they say is that they catch, the people doing the hair coursing, they're out on the streets, they have very small fines, it's not making a difference, things are getting worse. We had a tool theft summit a couple of weeks ago. Farmers are having machinery being stolen off their land. And it's not just that, it is the endless fly tipping. We've just seen this horrific fly tipping in Oxfordshire on a scale that we've never seen. It is because there is no enforcement. People are spending too much time on paperwork and bureaucracy rather than making sure that people are punished and that the punishment is severe enough that they don't do it again. We need to bring back some common sense if we're going to save farming. Farming is at an emergency point. This is an emergency farming summit, and we want you to know that the Conservatives have your back. And what I'm not going to pretend is that things were absolutely perfect when we were in government. They were not. There was too much attention focused on things that had nothing to do with producing food. Food security is essential. We are looking at a very, very difficult geopolitical climate. And post-COVID, we all know what happened with supply chains. We need to make sure that we can look after ourselves better than we have done before. So I'm going to finish, because I know you've got lots of questions for me, but I'm going to finish on this point. We understand what you're dealing with. We care. And we are going to solve it one way or another. While we are in opposition, our job is to make sure that no one forgets you. We want everybody to remember every single day what farmers up and down our country are dealing with. And that is what I and Vicki and Greg and Afra and Robbie and all of our MPs are going to be doing week in and week out. We have your backs. We're going to look after you. We will make sure that your voices get heard. But we need your help as well. We need your ideas. We need your solutions so that when we do get back into government, we can help you. Help us to help you is the message that I want you to take away. There are a lot of thoughts, a lot of solutions which you have, and we've learned from the mistakes of the past. We are not going to impose things on farmers. We're not going to do things to farmers. We're going to work with you, solutions by farmers, with farmers, for farmers. So let's get that message back to Westminster, get Rachel Reeves learning exactly what farming is and the contribution it makes to our country. Let's make sure that she reverses the mess that she's made and that next week's budget is one that actually gives you all a good deal. Thank you, everybody. I'll let you moderate.
Oh, thank you very much. I think we've got some questions, do we?
Hi. I was just wondering, how can we promote men's mental health in the countryside, especially that of our young men that are statistically more vulnerable to mental health issues?
I think this is an often overlooked question, especially in the farming sector, where many people feel isolated, often family businesses, where something going wrong in the family impacts every single person. There is no resource to go to. I do think that we must not underestimate just how much difficulty a lot of people are in. And the first thing to do is not create more problems for farmers, especially those who are susceptible to mental health issues. Yes, of course, we need to make sure that the NHS is funded. Yes, of course, we need to make sure that there is money for public services. But we need more people in the community to understand what you are going through so that they can provide support. It is not always that the council or the government knows the right answers. And that means making sure that our rural communities continue to thrive. Mental health issues weaken when we have stronger communities, when other people are there to help solve the problems. And that's one of the things that we want to focus on. How do we make sure that rural life does not get more and more difficult? How do we make sure that we're not just piling endless problems on people? So I'm not a doctor, I don't have a prescription, I can't give a medical answer, but I can give the answer that a good politician should give. And that is that we make sure that if we give people the tools to look after themselves, then they will be able to look after themselves.
Thank you, Kemi. And I would just add to that, first of all, don't make bad policy. And secondly, support the organisations on the ground that are looking after people. This includes rural services networks, it includes our young farmers clubs. DEFRA has just axed the funding for our young farmers club. Do you know how much they were giving? £30,000. Yeah. And yet DEFRA has axed that, which means that that vital network of support for our youngest members is at risk. So that sort of nonsense needs to end. We need to understand that people who are looking after each other needs that bit of help and support to continue the vital work that we all care so much about.
Absolutely.
Oh, lady there, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you. Is it on? Thank you both very much for coming. I feel a bit of a fraud because we only have a very small flock of pedigree Kerry Hill sheep, and we don't have any of the problems that most people here have. But I wanted to come to support you all. One thing I think that our current government doesn't understand, and it was illustrated to me only a couple of days ago after some big storms we had. We were driving down our road. There was a big tree across the road. Coming towards us was our neighbour with his piece of equipment which was going to move that tree immediately. Nobody was prevented from going on their way. Nobody asked him to do it. It's something that our community does. We contribute. We help each other. We're good neighbours. I've lived in cities. I know that there can be a neighbourly quality to the area, but it's nothing like the unsung heroes of our rural community. So my question is, how do we, if we have another 4 years of this government, how do we re-educate the, it seems, nearly all metropolitan population of our government, that it isn't just the big questions, but all those other areas in which the farming community quietly and efficiently gets on with making sure things work. How can we make sure they understand that? Thank you.
It's an excellent question. And actually, I don't think the problem is that they're nearly all metropolitan. The problem is that most of them have never worked for a business or in the private sector. They have all come from the public sector, from trade unions, if we're lucky, maybe a charity. So they don't get business. Even if you haven't worked on a farm and you've run a small business, you've had to hire people, you've had to get up, start it from scratch, pay business rates, do your profit and loss. You start understanding what it is that it takes to actually make this work. That's what's missing. And we need to make sure that the pressure is kept on, not just from family farms and family businesses, but everybody, so that they don't stop hearing our screams. We have to keep screaming at them. But the second point you made about how do we educate goes towards, in my view, the whole population. In the constituency, I live on a farmhouse, and it floods every year. And I was told that what used to happen was that the farmhands in the winter would clear the ditches so that they wouldn't get full up and they wouldn't flood. But because we don't have farm hands anymore, it's just a handful of people on the farm. We don't have that many people. No one's doing that work. There's also been a lot of regulation. It's now the Environment Agency's job. They don't do it. They don't have enough people to do it. And so these things are just degrading. There's no one around to do what used to be done before. That requires the community to start getting involved. I think it starts in schools. We need to educate young people, young children, even the ones in rural communities don't know where food comes from. They think it all comes from Tesco. We need them to understand where food comes from, why farming is important, and why we need to look after our natural environment as well. And I think that has to be an education process on social media. Everybody makes the joke, but Clarkson's Farm has actually done a lot to show people what farming is about and what it's like. But that's what we need. And then maybe eventually some people in the government will start to see sense. But thank you for that question.
Thank you, Kemi. Ollie.
A couple of parts to it, but I'll try and be brief. Number one priority is scrap the family farm tax. Firstly, is that written down? Because we've seen before, opposition talks cheap. So we'd like to know that's written down and it'll be a manifesto pledge. Also, you've just touched on about rivers and things like that. Can the second thing be have a look at the Environment Agency and remind them that they used to be called a National Rivers Authority, and their job was to keep that water flowing because man can live next to it in harmony or grow food next to it. And then the third little one is, where's your jacket? You've got the flags. Thank you.
Yeah, what happened to the jacket? Yes.
Well, the famous jacket. I thought, how can I possibly compete with that wonderful flag there? But thank you, Ollie.
But so the answer is yes, it will be a manifesto commitment. And it is true. I'm sure everyone here, including us, we've heard politicians say things and then the thing didn't happen because something went wrong and so on. But here's why you can rely on what we're saying. It is because I know that that tax is not going to raise any money. It's not going to raise any money. Every week, I speak to farmers who are tax planning and making changes. We heard the very extreme stories that Vicki was telling about the drastic measures some people are taking so they don't have to pay that tax. So it's not going to raise any money. So if it's not going to raise any money, why have it? And instead, what's going on is lots of people are spending a whole lot of time trying to work out how to avoid it, deciding not to be in farming anymore. We're going to end up in a much worse situation. That is why you know that we are going to scrap it. But the second thing about the Environment Agency, I think, is a good point. There are now too many quangos and too many bureaucrats. I am someone who lives in terror of the bureaucracy. I think there are a lot of people who are making work but not actually solving problems. And I think simplifying things will go a long way. I don't know whether it can be called the Rivers Authority anymore, but I do think that we are seeing serious problems with the Environment Agency. The scandal of what is in Oxfordshire now shows that it's clearly not working. We're putting more and more money into it, and we're getting less and less out. What are they doing with it? So let's look at that. But how to do that is where I need your help. I don't really know how the Environment Agency works. I never worked in the environment. I never worked in it. No, but nobody does. Well, that's. I think. Well, nobody knows how it works. So let's try and fix that. Give us your answers. Give us your solutions. What should it do? How should it work? Where can we lift the burdens? We want to work with you in order to get a manifesto that actually makes sense. I just want to bring back some common sense, everybody. We're losing common sense across the board. Let's bring back some common sense and let's get rid of the burden which so many of you are living under. Thank you.
I've made 3 solemn promises to you as Shadow Secretary of State. Firstly, that we will we will reverse the APR and BPR changes. We will axe the family farm and family business tax. Very keen that people understand it is the BPR element as well, because that is so important for tenant farmers and others. Secondly, we will put food production at the core of our agricultural policies. I know in the past there's been an emphasis on the environment. That's very important, but you're here. Your primary purpose is to grow food. And then the third promise I've made you is that we will fix the regulators and the regulations. I'm announced at conference I'm going to be conducting this review. It's going to be a long review because it's very complicated. It needs a bit of thinking about, but I promise you we are going to get to a good place on exactly that regulation and the regulators. Right, lots of hands. A gentleman at the back there in the glasses.
Minette Batters came out with a report this week. One of the things you asked how the community we can help you to help us. The first thing you can do, of course, is this week stop the government burying that report. How does one go about that?
Yes. Well, I first heard about it in the papers. I didn't even know she was writing a report. Vicki will know more on this one.
Yeah. So Minette was asked by City Steve to write this report into profitability. Apparently, with the aim of it being published before budget, Minette did her job in good faith. She did the work. She's been sat in DEFRA trying to draw this report together, and it has been delivered to the Secretary of State, but it is alleged that the Treasury has said you cannot publish that report ahead of budget. The reason why, I can only assume, is because it tells some hard truths about this government's farming policy. I promise you, Robbie asked this question in DEFRA Orals last week. We are putting pressure on to get this report published. Of course, if anyone else has a copy of the report, who knows? It might make its way into the newspapers before budget. Who knows?
I think that's very likely, actually. I think so. The gentleman in front here, please.
Talks about scrapping the family farm tax. That's good news, but that tax starts to accrue debt for people as of next April. Will you commit, when you retake government, that you cancel any debt as well that has accrued from that?
Okay. So this is a request that I have had from a lot of people. I am looking at it. I'm not going to make a commitment until I'm absolutely sure whether we can deliver it. As we said earlier, you've heard a lot of politicians stand there and say things and then not do it. I have said that I'm not going to say anything until I've worked out how I'm going to do it. I think we need to look at what the situation is at the time. It is something that I certainly want to do, but I will make a commitment when I'm sure that that commitment can be delivered. Too many people have been disappointed by too many promises made and nothing happening. And look where it's got us. I mean, right now, the government is in the same position because it said all sorts of things. It hadn't thought about how it was going to do it. And now people are disillusioned with both the main parties. They are looking elsewhere. They're looking at the Greens. They're looking at reform. I don't have any confidence that either of those two parties are doing anything different. They're also saying things, but not actually working out how they're going to do it. We need detailed plans. And to the point you made about the gentleman over there made about how we've heard politicians say things before. It isn't just what politicians are saying; it's why they're saying it that's important. There are too many people who do this because they just want to win an election, and the winning of the election is the goal. And then after they win the election, it feels like job done. But actually, that's the beginning. I am not doing this just to win elections. We need to win the election so that we can actually change our country. I am worried about what I'm seeing happen to our country. I'm worried about my 3 children. What are they going to grow up in? I don't want them to grow up in a poor United Kingdom. I want them to grow up in a rich United Kingdom. But that means we need to stop doing a whole bunch of stupid things. We need to stop deindustrializing our country. Manufacturing is leaving. Oil and gas is leaving. There's an oil and gas emergency happening in Aberdeen. The companies are being taxed 102% of their profits in some cases. We need businesses to make profit. It is not government that creates growth. It is business that creates growth. It's farmers that create those jobs. You're the ones who hire young people. They're not getting jobs at the moment. We have 1 million young people who are not working, not in training, and not in education. That's under 25s. That is completely crazy. We have too many people on welfare. We need to get them working. That's why we're doing this. And that's why we're not making thousands and thousands of promises. We know that there are a lot of things that we want to do, because I think it is unfair that the timing means that certain farmers are going to be captured by this. So we are looking at it. And if we can, we're going to work hard to see how we can do this. And once we can, then we will make a commitment. But I won't say that until I am sure that I can deliver it. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid Kemi's got to get back to the House of Commons, and I know you still have questions, so I will try and stand in for her. But can we please thank Kemi for her speech?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thanks so much. It's really good.
It's always difficult being the person left holding the mic when the star has left the show. So I'm going to do my best. So, gentleman there. Oh.